Like, the kids would come to the bedroom door, and anytime the kids came to the bedroom door and wanted a snack or anything else, like, usually me, I would go get it for them, or somebody would. But it was most of the time almost always me. Because, 2 or 3 people were in the bathroom doing their thing. And
doing stuff.
Just doing a little, And I didn't like going in there when the drug stuff was going on. Once in a while, I kind of stand by the doorway. But otherwise, hey, can we go do something? Let's go have fun. Or let's maybe grab the kids some applesauce or something. Jesus Christ. So anyway, so number 2, maternal grandparents, kids all over the place. Some kids here, some kids there. So far we have April is in the gallery showing support during the CPS hearing. Number 3, and this one broke my heart temporarily to hear. This was a tough one to hear. Number 3 is it's something that how do I put this? When it comes to Kayla, and maybe I'm too easy on Kayla, but Kayla can be a very sweet, loving soul. The thing with Kayla is this. When it comes to drugs and it comes to neglecting children and when it comes to getting better and turning your life around, there's a difference between wanting to and being able to. Kayla has, I can tell you this from experience, 100% fact. Kayla wants to turn it around. Kayla wants to stop all of it. Kayla feels guilt. Kayla is one of the guiltiest people I've ever met. Kayla feels terrible. Kayla does not think this stuff should be happening. The drugs, at least, and all of that. Kayla wants to do better. Kayla is not capable of doing better. I offered resources. I offered help. I offered anything I could. Kayla would always talk about wanting to do better, but when it was time to take any actual concrete steps, she would not. Every fight with Nick where she would end up hurting herself, every fight with Nick where she would come back screaming and crying that he gaslights the shit out of her and all that, never did anything. Like, you feel bad for people at some point, but then you kind of get the the principle from American History X where you ask that question of, has anything I've done made this better?
Yeah, you've contributed enough to it. So
right. You can't feel sympathy for someone forever unless they do something about it. And she is unwilling to do something about it. She's go along to get along. When she will sit there and she will stand right in front of everyone. Her little 5'2", adorable little Kayla. She'll stand there in front of everybody. She goes, "This is wrong. This is bad," and they'll yell back at her and convince her it's her fault, and she'll fall apart again and go, "All right." There is an impulse in her to do the right things. It just doesn't. Trucker 18-wheeler with $5 says, when Kiki said the Ricadas were there for April, that aged well. Keanu's naive. But as someone who was there, it's hard to watch other people struggle with it and not get it. Because it's like, guys, all you really have to do is listen to the guy who's said it all. And every time shit comes out. And again, in this document, we're going to be like, wow, Aaron said that was kind of a thing. It's like, you think? Jesus.
Like he almost knew what he was talking about. Holy shit.
I'm the only one who's admitted any guilt in this whole thing. Well, you're about to hear now there's a second person who's admitted guilt. But I'm the only person who said this was wrong. I'm the only person who says I've been a piece of shit. I'm going to break myself down. I'm going to rebuild myself. And while there will be stumbles along the way, I will do better. And I am. I feel fantastic. But I can tell you the stories. I can tell you what happened. Nobody else who was there can, because nobody's willing to even be honest with themselves about what they themselves did, let alone anybody else. King Kong Dong says Kayla is a Minnesota 4 on a scale of 100. I disagree. I think Kayla's a beautiful woman. I genuinely do there's a lot of good in Kayla. There's just, again, as I said before, Johnny, there's wanting to and being able to. And where Kayla fails constantly is the being able to part, you know? But at least, unlike Nick and April, she doesn't, she at least has the want to do good. Kayla wants to do better and can't. The rest of them only want to do what feels good to them. They're very much locked in their own wants and needs and don't give a shit about anyone else. Kayla at least has that tinge of feeling bad. For once, and again, if you're just joining us, MN Public Records released documents from a CPS hearing, and we're going through them now. We're just going through the Kiwi Farms highlights here because the documents get hard to read. Number 3. For once, there was a brief glimpse of conscience and contrition in Kayla, MN Public Records writes. She tearfully hugged her eldest son out in the hallway and said, quote, and this is important, and hopefully this is part of the CPS hearings and the criminal hearings. She tearfully hugged her eldest out in the hallway and said, quote, "These are the consequences of our actions." Now, that should be a big holy shit moment. I was surprised more people didn't take that as the holy shit moment that it is, because I don't think people get it. I don't think people understand. That is the first time anyone not named Aaron has admitted any kind of guilt in this
or
whole
wrongdoing.
thing. Or wrongdoing. And God bless Kayla Ricada for doing that. God bless her for at least in that moment being a good mother and hugging her oldest and saying, these are the consequences of your actions. Has Nick stopped to tell his children once, this isn't your fault, this is my fault? I did this. Well,
no, because he didn't do anything wrong after all. This was all a setup. It's the deep state.
Save my own ass before I teach my kids a lesson. Or I make my kids feel better about the situation. No, Dad's got to cover his ass. Dad's got a CYA so you kids can figure it out. Like everything else in his life, his kids can fend for himself. Nick's got to look out for number one. And the side piece who's up in the peanut gallery for support.
Well, I mean, this is really surprising to me because Nick has always been such a great father figure with all of the... He's really, all the lengths he's gone to get the kids back and everything else. Like, just, I'm surprised he's not more concerned.
And this is where the Kayla that we've seen in the criminal proceedings, where she's been quiet, she's let Nick take the lead. And by the way, that silence is an endorsement of the way Nick's doing things. You have to take it that way. But this is the first time we've seen her go, these are the consequences of her actions, as she cries and hugs her children. And Nick Ricada, for not supporting his wife, not supporting his children, we know that, but not supporting his wife. I guarantee her saying that pissed him off, and they have fought about this. I know these two, and I'm telling you that pissed him off. I'm telling you they had a conversation about it, and I'm telling you it was a fight. And he yelled at her for it. Instead of him hugging his children too and going, this is Dad's fault. That's what being a dad is. Being a dad is taking the knife wounds, taking the pain so they don't have to feel it, especially when it's not their fault. If it's their fault, it's your job to teach them the lesson that comes with that pain. But when it's not their fault, even if it's your fault shared with other people, you take that. That's your job. And by the way, we're talking about a 42-year-old man who needs mommy and daddy to come over and clean his house. So I know this isn't getting through. But when you're 42 years old and you have 5 kids, you should know by now that your job is to take the pain of this world, absorb it, especially when it's your responsibility, and protect them. Kayla had a maternal instinct for a moment, and she went with it. She sacrificed herself for a moment, and I'm so proud of her. I wish she would have kept going. I wish she would have continued to accept that responsibility. She'd be in a much better place right now. But she hugged her eldest child, and she said, these are the consequences of our actions. Nick didn't do that. Would have been nice if Nick would have done that.
But he doesn't want to hug his kids. He wants to go hit up that side piece. That's why he's got.
Wants to get up there in the gallery, get some support. But these are the consequences of our actions. Kayla, In one simple sentence, you said something beautiful. You nailed it. Perfect.